So far in this chapter, we've looked at the power of story and how story weaves its way through everything we are and everything we do as human beings. And whilst I've already spoken about how I believe this creates an amazing opportunity for us to tell the stories of our lives, for the journey and the connection to our family, I want to delve a little bit deeper into it here. In this module, I'm going to be looking at some things to think about when you're creating a life story for you or somebody else, especially in terms of encouraging people or yourself to see that their life is worthy of being recorded in some way. Now, we're not into the practical aspects of how to tell a story in this chapter yet, but that will come very soon. But this is more about appreciating the relevance and the value of our life story. As you've likely picked up from this course already, I really believe that life is precious and should be cherished and celebrated. It's not my place here to debate the meaning of life or the purpose of life. There's countless books and courses on philosophy, spirituality and self-help from people far more qualified than me to write or talk about it. And it's also not my place to generalise or second guess about the quality of your life, the opportunity that your life was brought or taken away. And whilst I'm here to serve you and help you on this journey, it's likely that I don't know you. I don't know about your life and how hard or easy it's been, the challenges and the victories, the heartbreak and the joy. I don't know anything of what you've lived through other than the fact that because you are here with me now, you either have a story inside you that needs to be brought out into the world, or you see a story inside somebody else that you love. For now, as I take you on this journey, to simply just know that within yourself is enough, because you've already glimpsed the power of story. The goal for now is to build you up for success in getting the story out there, and it begins with dropping all judgment, because this is one of the core blockers that prevents people from even thinking they have the right to record their life story. One of the biggest blockers many people have is getting past the idea that many folks, especially older generations, think that their story isn't relevant or interesting to anyone. Because this is one of the biggest hurdles that stop people from actually doing it. And that's why I want to talk about it here. The thing to remember is that telling your life story isn't about being narcissistic or showing off, it's about celebrating life. And by celebrating life, you're actually celebrating the lives of others. And that's something that people are often surprised about. If you think about it, it's not unlike any other story. Take a movie, for example. It's rare that there's films with just one actor. Movies tend to have one or two main actors, the stars of the show, and then the supporting cast, without whom there would be no story in the first place. The same could be said of your life story. The stars of your show, the supporting actors are the friends, family, and people that have played a part in your life. It's just that you're headlining it. I genuinely believe, and I'm talking from experience of having worked with many people on both life story projects as well as research and filming for other kinds of projects, that it doesn't matter if you've lived your life working on a farm or in the mines, or a high-powered CEO of a multinational organisation, a stay-at-home mum, you worked in a grocery store, was a rocket scientist or a secretary. However dull or exciting you regard your job to be does not define who you are in your life. We are more than just our job, yet one of the main things that people often say if they're asked to record their life story is, "But I was just a." Now let me tell you something, the most fascinating life stories I've heard or have been involved with, the ones with the most warmth and humanity and love and adventure, have more often than not come from the people I've worked with who felt that because of their job in their lives, they really didn't have much to say that people would find interesting. So what I really encourage you to do, and this will start to come alive as we get to the chapters of the course around research and reflection, gathering photos and planning the things that we want to talk about, is to drop all of the judgments of what you think will be of interest to others. Because as you work out what you want your life story to cover, you'll start to realise that we're not going to be mechanically recounting the hard facts of your life. We'll cover things like birth dates and where you went to school and what you did for a living, but we'll also delve into the memories and moments, times and places, photographs, objects and faces. And more often than not, you'll find that people will be drawn to these stories, not just because of their connection to you, but also how it connects them to a wider, more social and cultural sense of the times that you're talking about. Because there's an interesting thing about personal memory and nostalgia, in how over time, it really connects us to a social history too, but in a far more intimate sense than we'd get through a book or a documentary. Think about the story I told you earlier about my grandfather. He could have been killed in World War II in that bombing raid. And actually, here's another personal family story that connects with encouraging people not to judge their lives. from the same era in history, from my grandmother, who, when I asked her if she would like me to help her film her life story, she said that she was just the wife of a miner and worked in factories most of her life, and that she wouldn't have much to say. So when my grandmother was a teenager in World War II, she was at school, and the teacher gave them a project and they had to make a doll. Now, she went home and she couldn't find any of the fabrics and the things that she needed to make this doll, and she got into a bit of a panic about it. Then she realised, now in World War II they had blackout curtains, which were big thick pieces of black fabric that you put inside your house to cover the windows, and the point being was that that would stop the light getting out at night time, so the Germans, when they were bombing the country, they couldn't see where the built up areas were. So it was really, really important, and everybody had blackout curtains. It was essential. So my nana, my grandmother, nana's a British thing, my grandmother looked at the blackout curtains and saw that in the bottom left-hand corner there was quite a bit of extra fabric. So she thought, what's the harm in just cutting some of that off and making this doll, which she did. Now, the teacher, when my nana handed in the doll, was so amazed and impressed by the quality of her work that she trotted up to my nana's mother, my great-grandmother, and told her what an amazing job she did. Now, my great-grandmother, my nana's mother, took one look at this doll and went berserk, because she realised that the fabric had come off the blackout curtain. Now, I love this story because it completely changes like my view of my grandmother. I mean, she did something a little bit naughty, a little bit cheeky, but actually when she tells me the story, she tells me that, you know, she was really careful not to endanger anybody. She saw this fabric and she thought it would be completely okay if she did it. But she was also being a bit cheeky because she knew that it was behind the sofa, so maybe nobody would see it. But it just kind of changed my relationship to her and her history, because all of these stories, they kind of, you know, when you look at like your grandparents or your parents, there's a couple of things going on here. You've got like that personal, you know, you've got that parental relationship, you know, or that relationship with your grandparents, and, you know, our parents are there to kind of help us through our lives and teach us and things like that. But there's something a bit more to it when these stories come out of who they were when they were younger, and it kind of makes them more human in a sense. I'm not saying that you don't look at your parents or your grandparents as not being human. Maybe you do, I don't know. But it's, I hope you see what I mean about how these stories bring their past to life and connect us in different ways. And in the same way that I told a story about my grandfather as well, it's not just of the relationship, but it's also of the time and place where these stories can really kind of connect things and bring things alive. So, you know, for me, my grandmother's story and my grandfather's story combined are two sort of like little anecdotes, you know, set in that time of World War II when the world was just completely crazy. But there's something warm and meaningful about them for my family and for me. I can't even begin to tell you what a beautiful experience it is when someone has filmed their life story. And quite often people have a special screening, like a premiere and a bit of an occasion, and play it in front of family and friends. The response people have is amazing. Tears of joy, children learning so much about their parents or their grandparents that they didn't even know. And even the very younger generations, they're like enchanted that they've had a window into the lives of their granny or their granddad. I cannot emphasise enough though, how by taking the time to look at your life through a different lens and tell stories about your life and who you've been or who you are, you'll inspire the people around you in so many ways, often in ways that you can't even imagine, as the stories you tell begin to settle, take root and grow within that shared intimate culture of your tribe. They become part of your shared history, are passed on within the family and possibly even outside of it too. And they become one of the most cherished family treasures that they own. And let me end this chapter by saying one thing here. During my PhD research on family photographs, identity, relationships and change, the fundamental thing that emerged was how utterly important family photographs were to people. Even with all the stuff that we've bought in our lives, it's the family photos and memorabilia that people always find the most precious. And therein lies the irony, because most of these photographs especially have very little or no value to others because they're of your family. But for you, for your family, your tribe, these photographs tell a story They're the cave paintings on the walls of your ancestors, displayed and kept in the places that mark your territory and your sacred or personal spaces. And as we move into the coming chapters, we'll explore how your family photographs are central in carving connections through time in the film of your life. This new appreciation of the importance of family photographs that we'll be looking at throughout the course also ties into the next chapter on why you should film your life story, because later in the course we will look at using photographs not only as a way to help you to connect to the past and remember, but also how to edit them into your video and help bring the past alive.